Friday, January 26, 2024. Sorry. This is the hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Paroles. The following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, certify they have reviewed all statutorily required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, panel member Dorgan.
Good morning, Joy Chance. Deborah Smith Palmieri.
Also present is the Office of Victim Services. Please state your name and inmate number for the record.
Baker 434-661.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Marcus Baker, inmate number 434-661. He is serving a sentence of 10 years jail, 5 years to serve, followed by 10 years of probation for child porn second and risk of injury. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of December 10, 2022. There is victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender has completed voices, track 1, and is a janitor. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system, the offender's overall score falls within the moderate range of risk for recidivism. And utilizing the static 99R, the offender's overall score falls for sexual offense recidivism falls within the moderate to high range. Mr. Baker, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. You may begin.
Thank you. I believe I should be given parole. I learned a lot about how what I did impacts people, and from both sides. Not only that, but I learned it helped me with a lot of social skills that I was lacking. And something I'd like to put to the test in the world. I learned how to identify my risk factors and keep those under control. I think that's the right wording. And I have, other than that, it's just family responsibilities that I want to get back to and help out with.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we have some questions that we prepared that we'd like to ask you, and then at the conclusion of those questions, we have some input from the Office of Victim Services, and then at the conclusion of that, we'll discuss your case and get back to you with our decision. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my illustrious colleague, panel member Chance.
So, Mr. Baker, this is a rehear for you. And at your last hearing, okay, almost a year ago,
Yeah.
You were given the rehear because they were giving you an opportunity with your first offense. And when you were asked, to share some insights into what the reason was for committing the offense, you said you could not provide a substantive answer today. So you thought that by participating, and completing the sex offender treatment program, that you would have some better insights into the nature of the crime, why you committed the crime, and how you can avoid those in the future. So tell me if, number one, you have some insights into why you committed the offense.
Yeah, I don't want to throw it all on this, but I had trauma that sexual abuse that happened to me as a kid. That I don't think I didn't get help for, and I didn't know how to handle it. And through the program, it helped me, like I said before, it helped me identify the risk factors, which I learned was it's a combination of not getting the help I needed and isolating myself from people and kind of pushing people away and not letting people in. And the program helped me to kind of open up more to people and be honest when they ask, oh, is something wrong?
So, what do you see as your risk factor?
Kind of letting my mental health get the best of me, sink into my depression, and just like isolating myself and closing myself off to the world and just being in my own little bubble, essentially.
So you need to address your mental health, your isolation.
Yep.
What was the other one?
It was just those two. It's kind of staying in my own personal bubble and kind of pushing people away and not discussing things.
Okay, so that would come under isolation.
Yeah.
So how would you address these two areas?
I'm gonna try and be more excuse me if I'm not using the right term, but I guess I'd be more proactive in my community. Try and get out more and not, run and hide when someone, when one of my friends says, hey, you want to go do this? Or a family member says, hey, you want to hang out or something? And one of the things that I wanted to do when I get home was also, get a private therapist to discuss my issues. Because I'm kind of coming out of my shell now. I'm not exactly comfortable with doing things in a huge open group. But I got to know.
Okay, so to address your mental health, you would do individual therapy.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
But the program helped me start. It was pretty much like opening a door to allow me to conversate with people more, because I've always been shy all my life. And I've never liked being the center of attention. And sorry, I lost my train of thought.
We're talking about the program and it helping you to open up to communicating with others.
Yes, it allowed me to form relationships with the people in my group, whether they were in my block or on a different block. And it was just like, we kind of became buddies. I wouldn't exactly say friends, but I'm not sure what the right term would be.
Positive relationships are okay.
Yes.
Because that could mean anything. Okay. And so in terms of so while you were committing these offenses, do you remember what was going through your mind at the time? And, whatever those thoughts were, do you think that you were able to share those thoughts in the group and work through them?
I believe I could. I just, it's a little more time, but I should be able to do it. I'm gaining confidence. I'm being more social in my block, so I think it's coming to a head where I could share and open up.
Tell me about the Voices program.
I don't really remember much about that. It was a little while ago, but
that was last April.
Yeah, it was.
You didn't write any notes for anything that you learned in it?
No, it wasn't. It didn't seem to. I don't know. It didn't seem appropriate for what I. It didn't seem appropriate given my offense. It seemed. I don't know, like the wrong content, but I got the basic gist of that. No matter what the crime is, it affects everyone. It doesn't affect one side. It affects the victim's family. It affects the victim. It affects, well, it affects me. It affects my family. And it affects everyone that's associated between the two parties negatively.
Okay, so here's where I have a little concern, because when you said the Voices program, which address and includes the victims of your offense, it's not just the victims themselves. It has to do with the victims, the family, friends, community, your family. So it's a little bit concerning that you did not think that that program was appropriate, because I thought that that program would have provided you with some more insights.
Well, yeah, I thought the program was going to be more geared to everything, but, well, not everything, more to my offense, but it kind of just like, it seemed like it skipped over that and talked about that not very long, and it talked more about drugs and alcohol the most. And
Yeah, keep talking.
I didn't find it helpful for me per se. I mean, it did a lot. It did give me some insight onto victims in general, but I just didn't think it applied equally to all victims.
You feel that because the focus was on substance abuse,
Yeah,
and you've indicated that you have no problems with substance abuse.
no, I do not.
What about some of the other people in the program? What did they work on anything or talk about anything that you could have related to?
No, no, everyone just kept quiet and nitpicked the whole class. Like they didn't really want to be there. Like they just had no interest in being there and being like, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. Why are we covering this?
But did it give you any help in understanding from the victim's perspective why what you did was wrong?
Yes. Yeah.
Again, that there were several victims, not just the actual victims.
Correct. Like I said before, my family, the victim's family, friends, family, the community.
So if you were to go back in the community, what do you see as a high risk for you?
Pretty much, just my risk factors is letting my mental health get the better of me, and just being in a depressive state and isolating myself and pushing people away. I think that would be the major concern for me.
Okay. So, who do you have for support in the community?
Well, I have my friends. I have, excuse me, my mother and her family to support me, and a lot of her friends that grew up taking care of me. And some of my old coworkers and my old boss, I believe.
What would you say to the victim today?
I would tell them I'm sorry. I pretty much ruined your life. It's it was not the right thing to do. It happened to me, and I shouldn't have done that to you. I should have gotten help for my own issues, and for whatever reason, I thought it was okay to do that to you.
So you were 19, right? At the time?
I'm not sure. I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I
How old
believe
are
so.
you now?
Pardon?
And you just had a birthday a couple weeks ago.
Yes, last week.
So how old are you?
I'm 28 now.
Okay. And so how much growth do you think that you have, how much knowledge do you think you have gained during the time when you committed the offense and today as you're sitting here 28 years old?
I believe I gained a lot of insight on what I was doing and what I did and how it affects people and how selfish my choices were, for I guess for a lack of a better term.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions, and I'm all set.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much there, panel member Chance. Now I'll turn it over to my colleague, panel member Smith Palmer.
I just want to follow up on one thing that you talked about earlier. You said you learned that you were lacking social skills. Can you tell me how you feel your social skills have improved?
Well, I don't shy away from conversation anymore. I seek out conversation with people. One of my biggest things was that I was afraid to ask people for things or for help for something because I was afraid that the answer was going to be no, or that I'd be bothering them. And I've learned to open up to people in certain things and talk to them about, more personal matters. And pretty much
Okay. Have you talked about like boundaries? It's great to be kind of an open book, but have you had some experience with setting boundaries for yourself and for others?
yes, that's something that I'm actually currently working on. Because even if you're cool with someone, they think it's all right to do a certain thing that you might not be all right with, and it's you got to kind of know how to let them know that's you crossing the line.
Or it kind of goes both ways, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Some people are oversharers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so there's some boundaries there that sometimes are difficult to navigate.
Right.
So you've talked about them and worked on them in one of your groups?
We didn't work on it, so it wasn't something in the group so much as it was something that was learned through trial and error.
You feel like you have some skills to navigate that in the community?
Yeah, I'd like to actually give them a try.
Mr. Baker, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay, so at this time, we'll turn it all over to Office of Victim Services for input. Just don't remark why we have input from Office of Victim Services. Thank you, OVS.
Thank you, Sir Chair. I do have a statement from the mother of the victim, and it reads, to the Board of Pardons and Paroles, I am writing this impact statement on behalf of my son, who is the victim in this case. Just to recap, Marcus was my stepson, and he molested my son when he was 5 years old. My son's father and I both wrote impact statements when he was sentenced, and again last year when Marcus tried to apply for early parole. We had several members in my son's immediate family write statements on his behalf as well. It is crucial for my son's sake that Marcus not be released. He was sentenced to serve until June 2025, which I don't think is even the adequate amount of time it should be. But for him to be able to get out even earlier is repulsive. As I stated in my first statement in year 2020, I will fight this tooth and nail for the justice my son asks and deserves. My son came forward when he was 9 years old about what happened. It was like a weight was lifted off his shoulders. It has continued to be an ongoing struggle with his PTSD due to everything that Marcus has inflicted on my son. But with the help of EMDR, he was okay for a few years. Kids are resilient, even to evil people, apparently. However, we did have therapists inform us that this may not be as easy once he hits puberty, and that it has not. Fast forward a year later, my child was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for 2 weeks in New York due to having a psychotic break. He is now on a substantial amount of medication to help him. He has been diagnosed with chronic depression. He has night terrors, and he has attempted suicide just months ago. I am scared my son will never be the same. Last year, at Marcus's parole hearing, he could not answer the question from one of the board members asking why he committed this act. Very unsettling, to say the least. He also did not make any effort to complete any programs to help his mental state. From what I have gathered, if he completes these programs, the chances of his release increase. I really hope for my son's sake that doesn't happen. But I have prepared my son's therapist for the worst case scenario so that we can have an intervention on how he can deal with this. It makes me sick to know it's just one more thing he has to deal with. It has not been easy. It has not been an easy life for him so far. And as a mom, it makes me incredibly sad. I will always blame myself for having someone like Marcus in our lives. I am shut off to letting anyone new in our life. He has destroyed so many people, and he may be able to get into a halfway house scot-free. I think as a parent, you probably know how this feels and how scared this has left us. If Marcus is released to a halfway house, my biggest request is that he not be placed in 2 specific towns, locations, for which my son resides, for the safety and well-being of my son. Despite him having a restraining order and to minimize chances of him running into Marcus. Despite some completed programs in the penitentiary, I am asking that you please reconsider letting him go and just have him serve the rest of his sentence. Thank you for hearing me. I hope this makes some kind of impact on what is chosen in today's decision. Thank you, mother of the victim.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's say you,
So,
Chance.
it was, very interesting to hear. Mr. Baker, talks about his, mental health as a major problem for him, something that he had not addressed before, but has now identified as a risk factor for him. I did go back and, review the previous hearing, which, the focus was on the voices and the problem sector behavior treatment program. But just hearing him talk about what's the risk factor for him, what's the high risk for him, and it all focuses around his mental health, which he has not had an opportunity to address inside. I do heard victim's statement in terms of her son. And I didn't try to figure out his age. He came forward at 9. So he might be around what, 13, 14. Yeah. Just hear her talk about the psychotic break and the hospitalization and the attempted suicide at his age are very serious. I know she mentioned that there were 2 towns that if we felt that we were going to, that she went to that length, and I appreciate it. But the other concerning fact for me was the Voices program, when she did not think that it was appropriate for him based on his offense. That kind of threw me off a little. Although when I did, explain to him what the Voices program is, he did add that, yes, at first he thought it was just himself, but now he knows it's a victim and the victim's family and his family, etc. So those 2 areas were concerning. And so he has 10 years of probation. He has another year and some months to go before he goes on probation. And so I'd like,
He had a mental health evaluation. He was evaluated.
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, he is now identifying it.
What's difficult for me is, in these cases, when it's a rehearing, right? And none of us were on that original panel, but, they asked him to do some things and, take additional programming, does that, and then.
And it comes with the job,
And then on the other side, you have the victim impact statement again, right? So,
Back again.
I can't speak for both my colleagues, but I'm sure it's the same thing. It weighs on us, right? So, and then to try to make a constructive decision as we move forward, sometimes it's difficult. So,
well, I know what my decision is, but I would like to hear feedback from.
And, there's a couple of factors. So if this is a rehearing, Mr. Baker was asked to go back and do the longer version of the treatment, of the sex offender treatment. So he did 36 weeks of treatment. He did the Voices program. I agree with Ms. Chance. I was a little bit perplexed.
Yes,
Very not make the connection, but I thought he did a good job of sort of bringing him to a place where I think he didn't realize maybe how it applied, but he did learn something from the program. He learned the effects of these types of, on all offenses, how they have their ripple effects, as you like to say. He does have about a year and 4 months left to his sentence. One of his perspectives, one of his needs is education. So I think that could add to a little bit of a disconnect. I appreciate Ms. Chance's point that he's able to identify mental health as his risk factor. I think the other side to that is he is able to identify it and understand that needs to be a good portion of his focus in the community. That going forward, needs to work on social skills, which I think goes to the first offense of the child pornography. and, you know, learning to live in the community, with other people and how to interact with them appropriately. It is a tough case because he did what the prior panel asked him to do. And I think it was through the additional programming that he's come to appreciate one of his needs is mental health. Now, the other side is the victim, you know, who is obviously struggling. I think regardless of what we do today, the victim is going to have a lifelong struggle with that.
But you know what was interesting? When they ended at the last hearing, so the victim, based on what the mother said, developed some forms of anxiety, had that psychotic break, and tried to, you know, take himself out between then and now. So it's the thought that the rehear date was coming up that, you know, concerned based on what the victim's mother said. So for me, that was concerning. And the fact that I was pretty taken back by the Voices program. But, you know, after leading him to understand what it was about, he did highlight as his risk factor his mental health.
In taking everything into consideration, I would be in favor of granting his parole today. He has no criminal record. He has addressed all of his risk factors as that were identified. He did a long-term sex offender treatment program. We don't often see that. And
So that is where I was.
Yeah, and I do think it's a positive in the sense that he has acknowledged that he needs to have mental health treatment in the community. I see that as a positive piece to what we learned in today's hearing.
Yeah.
Not at all diminishing the victim's mother's statement at all. And there's a protective order.
Yeah, and I agree with you there because that's what my head was going, because when I looked at the date of the mental health, it was in 2022. And I thought, had there been some, you know, recommendations that maybe that is something. So I don't ding for that is what I'm saying.
Yes.
But here, when I, you know, led him up to acknowledging that as a risk factor was pretty positive.
Mm-hmm.
And he does have good support.
Yes.
Because that's what was related in the
Okay, so,
mental health. So I'm willing to grant also.
okay, so, let's go over some,
So I
some
can,
stuff. So,
yeah.
let's start with,
So it's,
you think I'll get a joy, then we'll go from there. Problem sexual behavior.
Right.
treatment.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. Don't worry about it. No contact with minors. Halfway house, mental health evaluation treatment, no contact with victim, TV.
Yes.
Right.
Also, a restriction on pornography
And yeah,
and
Enhanced,
the enhanced internet. Restrictions on the enhanced internet.
Yeah.
Condition.
yeah. Okay, so we got it, I think. And if I miss something, tell me. In the case of Marcus Jonathan Baker, inmate number 434661, there's a motion.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you say mental health treatment, evaluation and treatment?
Yes,
yes, he did.
Okay.
In the case of Marcus Baker Johnson, again, inmate number 434661, there's a motion to grant parole on or after today's date of January 26th with the following. Enhanced internet and device monitoring, problem sexual behavior treatment, no contact with minors, halfway house, mental health evaluation treatment, no contact with victim, T as in Tom, B as in balloon.
And it's no contact with minors without the PO's permission. That's the new language of the condition, correct?
Yeah, well, it says no contact with minors.
No, it would only be, without PO's permission if,
Okay,
yeah,
we can always adjust it.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Right.
Thank you.
but I would have said the new problem sexual behavior treatment, the new no contact with minors,
Well,
the
these are,
new restriction on pornography.
well, these are the new steps, so we don't have to say that. We just say them and put them in the dish. Okay, is there a second?
Oh, second.
I'm sorry, can you go through them again? Because I'm not sure you mentioned pornography when you went through that list.
Okay, so
Yeah.
here you go.
Do one
So
more thing,
you got, problem sexual behavior treatment, you have that, you have, no contact with minors. You have halfway house, you got mental health evaluation treatment, you got no contact with victim TV, and you have enhanced internet and device monitoring.
And the restriction on pornography.
Yes.
Right,
So that's number 6.
and
correct?
restriction on pornography,
Got it.
There's 7.
3,
right,
5. The internet and the device are 2 different ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
no,
No,
Well, no, there is, okay, MH, enhance, restriction, halfway house, no minors, problem sexual behavior treatment, and no contact with victim TV.
Yeah.
So I think that's 7.
so, yes, you're right, yeah.
Got it?
1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, you're right. So with that said, do we have a motion to put that in place? I'm not sure if we
yeah,
did it.
second.
Further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Awesome.
All right, Mr. Baker, well, you'll be getting this information in the next couple of weeks. Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
This concludes the hearing for Marcus Baker.
Keep it open, I'll wait.
All right.
You have your ID? Oh.
What did we just watch? What did we just listen to? I'm getting so sick and tired of this insanity. I had to listen to it twice because I'm like, what are you talking? You're talking about the victim who they just went to say that she had to get taken to the hospital because, and then you're talking about that and you're saying, yeah, the anxiety of having to go to this parole hearing. So let's just let him out. That's the answer. You're saying, oh, because you don't want him to go through that anxiety again. And I just don't even understand what they're saying. Not to mention that it's got to have been one of the worst interviews we've ever heard. What's your risk factors? Well, being in my room alone and depressed. I need to talk more. It's like, no, dude, you like kids. You like kids. You were doing this since he was 5 years old. You know what they found on his phone? They found loads and loads and loads of CP. Kids as young as 4 years old. Someone like this could ever be a low risk core? Are you guys nuts? He's as dangerous as it possibly gets. He is the most dangerous child predator. And a judge gave him 5 years. Why? $10-year sentence with 5 suspended. And he gets out early. Why? Oh, well, we told him to take a program and he took the program. So, I mean, what did he even, you even heard him talk about, it was like, he was like, it wasn't that great. It wasn't really for me. I mean, I learned that there are victims. can't make this stuff up. You just can't make it up. What about any of this makes sense to anyone with critical thinking skills? In March, acting on a tip, Baker had communicated by text with a relative about illegal activity. Police obtained a warrant to search his phone. Baker reluctantly turned over his phone to the state trooper after he was presented with the search warrant. Police said they received information from the State Department of Children and Family based on a complaint from one of Baker's relatives concerning possible sex assault of a child. The conversation between Baker and his relative cannot be substantiated by police, but investigators did find CP secreted in locked files with subfolders within his cell phone while searching for deleted text messages, court documents allege. They said that they found 68 images in various positions. When they examined by the computer, the children's were estimated between the age of 4 and 13 and were engaged in all acts. Thank you, Richard, for the info. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't. You can't make it up. Starting at the age of 5 years old, he comes in here and he mumbles and bumbles. Oh, but he doesn't even give us so much of an apology. There's not even an apology. There's no remorse. There's nothing there. And his exit plan was to, he thinks his employers will have his old friends. What are you even talking about? I just don't understand. What was their reasoning for trying to parole him? Was it I just don't even get it. I really don't. This stuff is just so sickening. You just want to scream. You just want to scream. Connecticut. It's not just, Louisiana. It's not one state. This is like a pandemic. This is probably something, what is wrong with where's the common sense? When someone is caught doing this, what was it? Was it his stepbrother? 5 years old for years? And then you hear that trauma that the child is going through. In what world should he not be locked up for 25 years? For life. They found CP on his phone. Just that should have been enough to get him. That's evidence. It's illegal. What's the legislation in Connecticut for that? You don't need to even go to trial for it. I mean, you don't need to have his victim stand up in trial. Just take the CP and hit him on every single count. You're holding a smoking gun. You have a royal flush. Don't give me the BS about, we don't want to put the victim through the stand. So then don't. Get him on just the CP charges. Yeah, you're a bunch of... If someone is caught with CP, you know what their true inclinations are. I was depressed. I'm a loner. I learned in my programs not to be a loner. What the? Shut up. It's unbelievable. It truly is unbelievable. If you were curious what the board members look like, I figured I'd show you. So we have, she's like the grandmotherly sounding woman. He's, of course, the man here. And then I don't know if it's her that's talking or if it's, I'm not entirely sure who this is because I'm pretty sure it's just 3 board members.
With minors conditions.
But maybe at some point we will we'll go over who they are and we'll go over their bios. It's taken me, this entire process is taking me. It's like they go through it very differently than I'm used to in Louisiana. I have to listen to these hearings multiple times to try to grasp what's even going on because a lot of it they just don't. they have quite a different format about it. So I'm going to have to start figuring these things out as I go. But leave me suggestions in the comment section if you think I should maybe come on before to explain what he's in for. But I'm so mad. It's you probably wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it, and here it is. Monsters exist, and I think the only thing worse than a monster are the system, the sorry excuse of enablers that allow this to happen. Just can't do it.